So we have seen that parties can enter into contract. These contracts gives rights to them. These rights are protected as per the Indian Contract Act, and either of the party can move to the court to enforce such rights against the other person. That is what we call jus in personam. That is, these rights can be enforced against the other party to the contract. Now let's see the very important part of this act, that is the definitions. Lot of time definitions are asked in the exams. So first we are going to see three definitions. First definition is contract under section 2H, agreement under section 2E, and promise under section 2B. First see the definition of contract. Section 2H says that an agreement enforceable by law is a contract. There are two parts in this definition. First, there should be an agreement, and second, such agreement should be enforceable by law. So the contract means an agreement. First, there should be an agreement, and agreement should be enforceable by law. These are the two components of the definition of contract. It means all agreement may not be contract. So see, there are so many agreements. These are agreements. Only those agreements which are enforceable by law will become contract, will be treated as contract. Now here you have to understand one thing, that only few agreements which are enforceable by law will become a contract. It means all agreement per se are not contract, only few of them are contract. Now let's see the second definition, that is agreement. Agreement is defined under section 2E of the Indian Contract Act. It says that every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for each other is an agreement. So there should be a promise first of all for becoming an agreement. Let's try to understand the definition of agreement with an example. Suppose one person is having a book, and this book he wants to sell to B. So B is another person who want to purchase this book from A. Now A promises to give this book to B. So he is making a promise. A is making a promise that I will give this book to you. And on the other hand, B is also promising to pay 100 rupees to A in return, in consideration. That is, there are two promises. Promise number one, that is A is making a promise, I will give you this book. And promise number two, in consideration of this promise number one, that B is saying, I will pay you 100 rupees for this book. So you can see that these promises, promise number one and promise number two, forming a consideration for each other, and once both persons give these promises, it becomes an agreement. Remember, this is just an agreement. It is still not a contract. Unless until such agreement are enforceable by law, it will not become a contract. So agreement, there should be promises, that is set of promises forming consideration for each other. Now let's see the definition of promise. You have heard promise so many times, but let's see the actual definition of the promise under the Contract Act. Section 2B says, when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent. Assent मैंने वो जब हाँ कर देता है उसके लिए, assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. तो ऐसा मान लिया जाता है कि वो proposal accept हो गया है. And when the proposal is accepted, it becomes a promise. For example, suppose A ask B, will you marry me? He is making a proposal. Will you marry me? This person is making a proposal to B. So once B says that yes, that is, B is signifying her assent. So this proposal is accepted. So A is making a proposal, will you marry me? And B, she is saying yes. It means this proposal has been accepted by B. And once this proposal has been accepted by B, B is making a promise here. Once B accept this, it means B is making a promise, yes, I will marry you. So you can see that for a promise, there should be two things, in fact three things. There should be a proposal. So proposal should be accepted, and once it is accepted, it becomes a promise. Now let's focus on the most important section of Indian Contract Act, that is condition of enforceability. We have already seen that all agreements are not contract. Only those which are enforceable by law will be treated as contract. Now section 10 clearly says that all agreement are contract, but after that it puts an if. So an agreement will be treated as a contract if they are made by free consent. So the parties to the contract are giving their consent freely. There is no pressure on the parties to give consent. Then parties must be competent to contract. It means they should not be minor or lunatic persons. So they should be competent enough to contract. Then there should be lawful consideration. Whatever you are giving and taking and giving back, there should be, the consideration should be lawful, legal. It should not be illegal consideration. And with a lawful object, the object of the contract should be legal and are not hereby expressly declared to be void. And the agreement should not be such that which is declared to be void by the law, any law. So we will see all these items into detail after a couple of minutes. Now from this section we can see that for an agreement to become a contract, agreement must fulfill all these conditions mentioned by section 10. So there should be a proper offer and proper acceptance with the intention to create a legal relationship. And there should be lawful consideration. Parties should have a capacity to contract. They should be competent enough to contract. There should be free consent of the parties, and there should be lawful agreement. The object should be legal and not declared to be void by any law. So now we can see that to become a contract, there should be agreement, and such agreement is enforceable by law. And what is enforceable by law? It is clearly mentioned under section 10. So section 10 will decide whether an agreement is a contract or not. Let's see the essential elements of a valid contract again and in detail. First, there should be offer and acceptance. So one party is making an offer to another and the other party is accepting it. So let's see, there is one party making an offer and the another party is accepting that offer. So this is the first condition, offer and accept. Second is mutual consent. So here both the parties are giving consent to this arrangement freely. The consent should be freely. There should not be any pressure on either party. Then it says there should be a legal obligation. So there should be intention to create a legal obligation. So what do you mean by legal obligation? Suppose A is asking B to come for a dinner, and if B does not come, A has no intention to the move to the court, right? But suppose A is saying that kindly come to my party to sing a song, and for that I will pay you 5 lakh rupees. Now, if you don't come, then my reputation will degrade it, and in that case, I will move to the court. So here there is an intention to create a legal obligation. Next thing is free consent, that we have already discussed, that there should be mutual consent, it should be free consent, there should not be any pressure. Then there should be competent parties. See, दो बच्चे अगर contract कर रहे हैं, so there will not be any contract under the Indian Contract Act because they are not competent enough to enter in. This point we will see in detail later on. Then next thing is lawful consideration. Whatever you are giving and taking back, or another thing you are taking, there should be lawful consideration. Then there should be lawful objects. The contract should have legal object. All these things we will see in detail later on. Not declared to be void. There should be some contract which are declared by the any law to be void. For example, export of rice is banned for a particular period, so you cannot export rice. So these are declared to be void in such cases. So it should not be declared to be void. There must be certain. Certain means the contract should clearly spell the terms and condition and the things. If it is not clear, it will not become, agreement will not become a contract. For example, मुझे वो चाहिए, तो वो चाहिए जब तक आप स्पेसिफाई नहीं करेंगे, वो आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं बनेगा. Then it must not be impossible, because law is not for foolish people. So if a person say I will bring stars, and for that you will pay me 100 rupees, so this agreement is not a contract, because nobody can bring stars from the sky. So it is impossible, and court will not waste time for such type of agreements. So this is not a contract which can be enforceable by law. So the things which you are promising must be possible things. It should not be impossible.